You're not exhausted because you're doing too much. You're exhausted because none of it feels like it matters. And if you're honest, the tiredness you blame on sleep might actually be coming from a life that no longer fits, and that's harder to admit. You're not tired, at least not in the way you think. Sleep 1T fix this. A vacation 1T fix this. Another weekend off 1T fix this. Because the exhaustion you feel isn't T coming from doing too much. It's coming from doing too little of what actually matters to you. Welcome back to Quiet Thinking. I used to tell myself I was just tired, long days, too much screen time, not enough rest. That explanation felt reasonable. Responsible even. Everyone is tired. It's almost a badge of honor now. You ask someone how they were doing and they say, busy, exhausted, and you nod like that's normal. But there was a specific kind of tired I couldn't explain. The kind where you wake up after 8 hours of sleep and still feel heavy. The kind where your body is technically rested, but your mind feels dull, flat, unmotivated. I kept trying to treat it like physical fatigue, more coffee, earlier nights, productivity hacks. But nothing really changed because it wasn't physical, it was emotional. There's a difference between being tired and being unfulfilled. Tiredness says, you've used a lot of energy. Unfulfillment says, you've used your energy on the wrong things. That hits differently. When you're retired from something meaningful, it feels clean. You can work hard on something you care about and still feel alive. Even exhausted, but alive. There's a quiet satisfaction underneath it. But when you spend most of your time disconnected from what matters to you, the exhaustion feels heavier. Because it's not just effort, it's misalignment. I remember sitting at my desk one afternoon, staring at a screen. Nothing dramatic was happening. No crisis, no major stress. But I felt drained in a way that sleep couldn't explain. And I had to ask myself a question I'd been avoiding. If I keep living like this for the next 5 years, will I feel proud of it? That question didn't make me panic. It made me quiet. Sometimes we call it burnout because that sounds productive. Burnout implies you've been pushing hard. But what if part of you isn't burned out? What if part of you is under-used, under-challenged, under-expressed? There's a specific fatigue that comes from suppressing parts of yourself, from shrinking your interests, from postponing things you secretly care about. You can function like that for a long time. You can be responsible, stable, dependable, and still feel empty, and emptiness is exhausting. It's hard to explain to someone who hasn't felt it. You look fine, you're performing fine, you're meeting expectations. But there's a quiet voice in the background saying, this isn't not in a dramatic way. Just a low, steady hum. When that hum goes ignored long enough, it turns into chronic fatigue of the spirit. You start needing constant stimulation to get through the day, constant distraction. Because if you slow down, you feel the gap between where you are and where you want to be. That gap takes energy to carry. I used to think fulfillment was something big, a huge career shift, a bold move, a dramatic reinvention. But sometimes it's smaller than that. Sometimes it's simply allowing yourself to admit what you actually enjoy, what you're curious about, what makes you lose track of time, and then noticing how little space you've given those things. Unfulfillment doesn't always scream. It often whispers through boredom, through irritation, through the feeling of counting down hours. You don't hate your life. You just don't feel connected to it. And that disconnection drains you more than effort ever could. There's also fear involved. Because once you admit you're unfulfilled, you face another question. What are you going to do about it? It's easier to say, I'm just tired, that keeps the problem manageable, temporary, fixable with rest. But saying, I'm unfulfilled, changes the stakes. It suggests that something structural might need to shift. And structural shifts are uncomfortable. They require honesty. They require small risks. They require saying no to things that are acceptable but not aligned. I am not saying quit your job tomorrow or blow up your life. That's not what this is about. It's about micro-adjustments, tiny corrections toward meaning. Maybe it's dedicating 1 hour a week to something that feels alive to you. Maybe it's setting one boundary that protects your energy. Maybe it's having one honest conversation you've been postponing. Fulfillment grows in small, consistent alignment, not in dramatic gestures. And here is something I learned slowly. Energy returns when meaning returns. When I started giving even a small portion of my time to things that genuinely mattered to me, something shifted. I didn't magically become hyper-productive, but I felt less heavy, less dull. The same number of hours in the day felt different, because they weren't all spent in quiet resistance. Resistance is exhausting. Going through motions while your inner self is disengaged is exhausting. Pretending you refine when you feel stagnant is exhausting. It's not that you need more sleep. You might need more truth, more alignment, more permission to want what you actually want. There's a quiet grief in realizing you've been living slightly off-center. Not dramatically wrong, just slightly off, but even a small misalignment repeated daily accumulates, and the body keeps score. You feel it as fatigue, as lack of motivation, as I don't feel like it energy. What if instead of asking, why am I so tired, you asked, where am I not being honest with myself? That question is gentler than it sounds. It's not accusatory. It's curious. Where are you saying yes when you mean maybe? Where are you saying maybe when you mean no? Where are you postponing something that quietly matters to you? Unfulfillment doesn't mean you've failed. It means there's information available. Information about what you value, about what feels empty, about what needs attention. And you don't have to solve it all at once. You just have to stop mislabeling it. You're not tired. Or at least, not only tired. You might be hungry, not for food, but for meaning, for growth, for contribution, for expression. When you start feeding those parts of yourself, energy shifts, not overnight, but gradually. You feel more present, more awake, even in ordinary moments, because you are no longer dragging yourself through a life that doesn't quite fit. If you were listening to this and thinking, that sounds like me, don't panic. Don't rush into drastic action, just notice. Notice where your energy rises. Notice where it drops. That contrast is a map. Follow it slowly, gently. You don't need to escape your life. You might just need to realign it. And that realignment begins with admitting that what you are feeling isn't just fatigue. It's a signal, and signals aren't there to shame you. They're there to guide you. You're not tired. You're unfulfilled. And that realization, as uncomfortable as it is, might be the beginning of getting your energy back. Sometimes exhaustion isn't about sleep, it's about misalignment. When your days are full but your inner world feels empty, rest won't restore you. Meaning will. The fatigue you feel may be a quiet signal that something in your life needs attention, not more caffeine. The deeper lesson is this. Energy returns when alignment returns. Instead of asking how to push harder, ask where you feel most alive. Start small. Dedicate even a little time each week to something that feels meaningful. Notice what lifts you instead of what drains you. Small adjustments create real momentum. Now I'm curious, what's one activity that makes you feel genuinely energized? Share it in the comments so others can reflect too. And if this resonated, consider subscribing to Quiet Thinking to support the channel and encourage more thoughtful conversations ahead. This is Quiet Thinking. I'm glad you're here.